There are three big things happening right now that just happened that will be a game changer for the silver market. I'll explain what they are and how it could affect price and demand as we explore. Hansa Cern 1 has made a very fascinating post about three different things that have changed just this week. One of them I've already talked about, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more here in this video too. But the other as well, the other two things I think were quite fascinating, and I missed them. The first one that happened was China has restricted exports. That's right. There's some policy shifts that have been occurring here. China imposed export licensing on silver via an announcement just this past week. And that is a pretty big deal. And of course, we know that there's been some strain in the Shanghai Futures Exchange and the Shanghai Gold Exchange with silver vaults. They've been depleted. And there was only one day where they had added a few more ounces. So that's a pretty big deal for sure. But you know, one thing, there's one vault that still has silver ready for you, and that is the vaults over at Summit Metals. You can buy silver there, check them out, experience their great customer service for yourself by clicking on the link in the description below. And so that is fascinating. Now, the next one that occurred, as we saw, was the silver being classified as a critical mineral. Yes, indeed. That's a pretty big deal. And Kitco has reported about this, how it could reshape the global supply chains. They continue the prices of silver trying to get to $50 an ounce. It hasn't reached there yet again, but I think it will. And I think that this addition to silver as a critical mineral could be a pretty big deal down the road. Maybe not immediately, but it is shifting the scope for what silver is. Silver as a precious metal is recognized as an important monetary asset. More than 60% of its demand comes from industrial applications. Growing industrial demand is a primary factor behind silver's ongoing significant supply deficit. Analysts note that the new recognition could further complicate the silver market and its already fragile global supply chain. Robust industrial demand has created substantial supply deficits for the silver market over the past 5 years, depleting above-ground stockpiles to critical low levels in certain aspects of the supply chain. And that has been pretty much due to what's been going on with tariffs and the volatility with uncertainty. Of course, I think in some way Donald Trump has said there's not going to be any tariffs on any precious metal. So I think some of this is kind of overreaction and a little bit of fear, but it still persists. And it is what's been happening here as the USGS list that are included in President Trump's Section 232 probe into processed critical minerals and derivative products. And that was announced some time ago, back in mid-April. And of course, April was the beginning of the new shift with the tariff policy that was put in full force. In an interview with Kitco, Matthew Pigott, director of gold and silver at Metals Focus, said he expects this new designation to increase volatility in the silver market. That alone, there's definitely going to be far more tightness in the silver market. Pigott explained that the volatility in silver will only ease once supply issues are resolved, a process that will not be easy. It will only be rectified if we end up with surpluses in the silver market going forward. Certainly, for this year, we're going to end up with another deficit. Looking into next year, we'll see the same because we won't have significant industrial weakness to reduce silver consumption. I think this balance turns around the surplus will depend more on the price itself being a victim of its own success. He added that higher silver prices are expected to drive more thrifting trends in the solar power sector. Silver consumption of photovoltaic solar panels has been a key price driver in recent years. Now, there has been some talk about overproduction of solar panels in China. And some of those panels dating back to 2023 are just now being utilized and being sold now. I mean, there's still a lot of production, but that's according to CPM Group. And so there's sort of that nuance in that sector there. He noted that silver accounts for about 15% of solar panel cost, and as a result, manufacturers are trying to find ways to reduce that amount. Piggott says that every $10 rise in silver's price puts more pressure on manufacturers to cut their silver usage. I disagree with that. I guess there is some pressure there, but if it's 15% of the solar panel costs have gone up insanely high over the past 6-7 years. It's crazy, and that's outstanding. And so I don't think that that much $10 rise is going to have that big of an impact, honestly, to where they're going to be putting pressure. In fact, there's one technology that requires more silver that makes them more efficient. He says if prices continue to climb, manufacturers could eventually phase out silver completely and switch to copper. I don't think that's going to happen either. I disagree with that analysis. Copper is much less efficient, and he says we could see elevated silver prices for the next 24 months, but it will all depend on the evolution of solar panel technology. And, but I mean, there was talk about aluminum and copper, but copper is slower. It's not as good. And I think that's likely not going to happen. We'll see, though. But, silver is a critical mineral, and it really is a game changer because, essentially, we're seeing it move from just an industrial metal to a strategic asset. And I think that is quite something. And, of course, Hans mentions here that the third thing that has occurred, which has just occurred just recently here, was that Australia has named it one of the 5 priority metals in its 2024 and 2035 strategy. So it's a priority metal. And 3 continents essentially are sending the same signal. Silver isn't just an industrial metal anymore. It's a cornerstone of national security and energy transition. And the U.S. adding silver to its 2025 critical minerals list, and with the Australia's North NSW strategy from October, prioritizes silver among 5 key metals for energy tech. And silver prices, they did top out at $54.50 an ounce in October, and now they're below 49 again. But that's not that big of a drop overall when you think about it. Holding steady, it's not taking a tumble like it did after 2011 and 1980. But it's driven by industrial demand and solar panels, EVs, data centers, all kinds of things. And they consume, in the solar panel and EV sector, about 90% of the global supply, according to data from the USGS. It signals silver's shift from commodity to strategic asset and potentially tightening supply and boosting value for physical holders amid this big surge in price, and upwards of over 65% this year. That is something. Now, again, it does not necessarily mean that the prices are going to skyrocket tomorrow, but it could mean that with these 3 things that have occurred, there is a shift, and it also will unleash resources here in the United States as a critical mineral to try to find a way to get more silver in the country. That's right, and getting more resources to mine it. Silver has had now its 5th year of supply deficits. And there's going to be more impetus and more emphasis on silver mining, as a byproduct of other metals and also as a primary silver product. And Poland is one area that has been talked about. We've not heard much recently about that, to where they have found a lot of silver resources in the ground. I've not heard anything more about the process to be able to get that out of the ground, but we know that this probably means faster tracking of trying to get silver out, less, speeding it up, trying to get as much silver out of the ground as possible to meet that demand. Because think about it, silver is the only metal in that list of critical minerals here in the United States that is indeed the most widely utilized. There's over 10,000 uses for the metal, so that tells us something. It's a huge deal. And so I think that, it may not have an immediate impact right away, and maybe even not for the next couple of months, but I think in due course we're going to see what happens. And remember, silver isn't mined for silver, as Hansa points out. 70% of global supply comes as a byproduct of zinc, gold, and copper mines. So even if the price doubles, production barely moves unless there is more focus on silver mining and an efficiency of being able to more actively look for silver as a byproduct of these other minerals. Yes, indeed. And they're needed too. Copper is needed as well because it's also a strategic metal. although it doesn't have as wide a variety of uses. So I think to some extent there's double-sided coin to that. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Silver moves energy. Without storage, you wait. Without movement, the world stops. And this is why it's completely different than other elements like lithium, for instance, and other critical minerals. And it's pretty interesting to see how amazing silver is and how resilient it is. It can be recycled, but it's going to take the price to go up a lot higher for it to be recycled efficiently and economically. Economic viability is really the key to silver supply and deficit right now. A lot of silver is being recycled. There's no question about it. The refineries are working overtime to get it done. But nonetheless, silver is in a new category right now with 3 different continents. So this is a big deal. We may not see the repercussions of it in terms of price for a while, but I think we're in a new era for silver, and it'll be very fascinating to see where it goes. And notwithstanding the fundamentals remain the same, it's an amazing metal all around for its physical properties just as much, if not more so, than those that are taking advantage of those physical properties. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.